Abu Nawaz al-Hasan ibn Hani al-Hakami, 756–814, known as Abu Nawaz, was one of the greatest classical Arabic poets, who also composed in Persian on occasion. Born in the city of Aviz in modern-day Iran, to an Arab father and a Persian mother, he became a master of all the contemporary genres of Arabic poetry. Abu Nawaz has also entered the folkloric tradition, and he appears several times in the Book of 1001 Nights. Early life. His work. Abu Nawaz's father, Hani, whom the poet never knew, was an Arab, a descendant of the Jazani tribe Banu Hakim, and a soldier in the army of Marwan II. His Persian mother, named Ghalban, worked as a weaver. Biographies differ on the date of Abu Nawaz's birth, ranging from 747 to 762. Some say he was born at Basra I, others in Damascus, Busra, or at Damas. Citation needed. His given name was al-Husan ibn Hani al-Hakami, Abu Nawaz being a nickname. Father of the lock of hair referred to the two long side locks which hung down to his shoulders. When Abu Nawaz was still a boy, his mother sold him to a grocer from Basra, Sa'ad al-Yashira. Abu Nawaz migrated to Baghdad, possibly in the company of Walaba ibn al-Hubab, and soon became renowned for his witty and humorous poetry, which dealt not with the traditional desert themes, but with urban life and the joys of wine and drinking, kamra'iyat, and ribald humor, mujina'iyat. His commissioned work includes poems on hunting, the sexual desire for women, the love of boys, pradrasti, and panegyrics to his patrons. He was infamous for his mockery and satire, two of his favorite themes being the sexual passivity of men and the sexual intemperance of women. Despite his celebration of love of boys, he did not take lesbianism seriously, and often mocked what he perceived as its inanity. He liked to shock society by openly writing about things which Islam forbade. He may have been the first Arab poet to write about masturbation. Ismail bin Nubakt said of Abu Nawaz, "I never saw a man of more extensive learning than Abu Nawaz, nor one who, with a memory so richly furnished, possessed so few books." After his decease we searched his house, and could only find one book cover containing a quire of paper, in which was a collection of rare expressions and grammatical observations. Exile and Imprisonment. Abu Nawaz was forced to flee to Egypt for a time, after he wrote an elegiac poem praising the elite Persian political family of the Barmakis, the powerful family which had been toppled and killed by the Caliph, Harun al-Rashid. He returned to Baghdad in 809 upon the death of Harun al-Rashid. The subsequent ascension of Muhammad al-Amin, Harun al-Rashid's 22-year-old libertine son, and former student of Abu Nawaz, was a mighty stroke of luck for Abu Nawaz. In fact, most scholars believe that Abu Nawaz wrote most of his poems during the reign of al-Amin, 809–813. His most famous royal commission was the poem, Al-Qasida, which he composed in praise of al-Amin. According to the critics of his time, he was the greatest poet in Islam. Wrote Fr Buthnit and Arabic authors. His contemporary Abu Hatim al-Makki often said that the deepest meanings of thoughts were concealed underground until Abu Nawaz dug them out. Nevertheless, Abu Nawaz was imprisoned when his drunken, libidinous exploits tested even al-Amin's patience. Amin was finally overthrown by his puritanical brother, al-Ma'mun, who had no tolerance for Abu Nawaz. Some later accounts claim that fear of prison made Abu Nawaz repent his old ways and become deeply religious, while others believe his later, penitent poems were simply written in hopes of winning the caliph's pardon. It was said that Al-Ma'mun's secretary Zanber tricked Abu Nawaz into writing a satire against Ali, the fourth caliph and son-in-law of the Prophet, while Nawaz was drunk. Zanber then deliberately read the poem aloud in public, and ensured Nawaz's continuing imprisonment. Depending on which biography is consulted, Abu Nawaz either died in prison or was poisoned by Ismail bin Abu Sel, or both. Legacy: Abu Nawaz is considered one of the greats of classical Arabic literature. He influenced many later writers, to mention only Omar Khayyam, and Hafiz, both of them Persian poets. A hedonistic caricature of Abu Nawaz appears in several of the Thousand and One Nights tales. Among his best-known poems are the ones ridiculing the old Arabian nostalgia for the life of the Bedouin, and enthusiastically praising the up-to-date life in Baghdad as a vivid contrast. He is one of various people credited with inventing the literary form of the ma'ama, literally blinded or obscured, a riddle which is solved by combining the constituent letters of the word or name to be found. He was certainly a major exponent of the form. His freedom of expression, especially on matters forbidden by Islamic norms, continues to excite the animus of censors. While his works were freely in circulation until the early years of the 20th century, in 1932 the first modern censored edition of his works appeared in Cairo. In January 2001, the Egyptian Ministry of Culture ordered the burning of some 6,000 copies of books of homoerotic poetry by Abu Nawaz. Any mention of pederasty was omitted from his entry in the Saudi Global Arabic Encyclopedia. In 1976, a crater on the planet Mercury was named in honor of Abu Nawaz. A heavily fictionalized Abu Nawaz is the protagonist of the novels The Father of Locks, Daedalus Books, 2009, and The Khalifa's Mirror, 2012, by Andrew Colleen, in which he is depicted as a spy working for Jafar al-Barmaki. Baghdad: Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, the author of the History of Baghdad, wrote that Abu Nawaz was buried in Shuniza Cemetery in Baghdad. The city has several places named for the poet. Abu Nawaz Street runs along the east bank of the Tigris. It was once the city's showpiece. Abu Nawaz Park is also located there on the 2.5-kilometer stretch between the Jumeirah Bridge and a park that extends out to the river in Karada near the 14th of July Bridge. Swahili culture: in East Africa's Swahili culture the name of Abu Nawaz is quite popular as Abu Nuwasi. Here it is connected to a number of stories which otherwise go by names like Nasruddin, or the Mullah in folktale and literature of Islamic societies. In the tales Abu Nuwasi tricks greedy, wealthy men and avenges the poor people. The Tanzanian artist Godfrey Mwampembwa, Gato, created a Swahili comic book called Abu Nuwasi, which has adaptations of 3 of the Abu Nuwasi stories. The book was published by Sasa Sima Publications in 1996. Translations: O Tribe That Loves Boys. Hakim Bey, Indamos Press, Abu Nawaz Society, 1993. With a scholarly biographical essay on Abu Nawaz, largely taken from Ewald Wagner's biographical entry in the Encyclopedia of Islam. Carousing with Gazelles, Homoerotic Songs of Old Baghdad. 17 poems by Abu Nawaz translated by Jafar Abu Darab. A Universe, Incorporated, 2005. Jim Colville. Poems of Wine and Revelry, The Qamra'iyat of Abu Nawaz. Kegan Paul, 2005.